So, welcome to the podcast, Tom Scantlebury. Is that Scantlebury or Scantle?
Well, you're English.
Yeah, it's a very English.
about-
It is a very English name. Scantlebury.
Yeah.
Scantlebury. That's it.
Think Canterbury,
Canterbury. Okay, cool.
Sharp.
Yeah.
Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's a old English name, I take it.
Cornish.
Cornish.
I was born over there, but
Right. Whereabouts? In Cornwall.
in Sussex.
In Sussex.
So we made our way towards Metropolitan.
Okay.
But
How long have you been here?
mate, from the accent, a long time.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time over there.
Yeah.
Working and stuff in London in my 20s.
Yeah.
But I support Aussie these days.
I do normally, except for cricket. I can't.
No.
I can't do that. I'll try, but I can't. Anyway.
You got the name right.
Okay, so give us the sort of the quick 30-second overview of who you are and what you do.
Rightio. Well, I founded a boutique customer experience consulting firm called Sky Blue CX Services about 3.5 years ago.
Yep.
And really what I put together was my career in hospitality that kind of blended into starting up new business units and really transitioning into customer experience, wrapping that all together and trying to help small and medium-sized businesses to improve their levels of advocacy.
And as a bizarre kind of coincidence, you also happen to know Cam Parker, who was sat there about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I listened to your episode with Cam, and I thought, I know that guy. He's a really good bloke. What I was doing, I don't know how long maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Was I was working at Wyndham. My role there was director of customer experience, and part of that was heading up new acquisitions and new hotels.
Right. Okay.
Or the operational side of that. So what we were doing at the time was in the Valley here in Brisbane.
Yep.
There's a hotel called Trip, TRYP.
Yep.
Which is it's a Spanish brand, and it was the first time that brand had been moved into Australia. So we actually had a really unique opportunity, being part of a global hotel group, to do what we wanted with the brand.
Right. Okay.
It was kind of like beg for forgiveness rather than
Permission
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we just wanted it to stand out, to be iconic. We were a little hamstrung on the site. Was an old.
It was an old not Masons, Buffaloes.
It was, yeah. But it was derelict, full of graffiti.
Yeah. Well, bizarrely, I'd been in there when someone had tried to convert it to a nightclub or a live music venue. I can't remember.
So it sat there in the valley with like, what can we do with it? We came across the developer and said, look, let's create something a little bit iconic. And so we actually found the graffiti artists that had got through because there's some really kind of well-known ones.
Yeah.
And then we incorporated them to come back and actually create the art throughout the hotel.
Wow.
So, I mean, we created something cool.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty small building. The rooms were small. The facilities were pretty poor.
Right. Yeah.
No pool.
Yeah.
Small gym. We had a rooftop bar, so we did what we could.
Rooftop bar?
Yeah, I don't know how it's going these days, but my role was really to invest in the human capital. So we've got a cool product.
Yeah.
But what does it feel like when you go in?
Right.
And it's the people that create the feeling.
Yeah.
And the whole operational side. So one of the things we did was we spent a lot of time hiring the right people, had a lot of fun in how we recruited them, creating our own language and how we wanted to be perceived. And part of that was like, what are they going to wear?
Right.
So Black Milk are from the Valley.
Okay, right.
And I mean, this is when they were really, just massive. And
did they have that? They had the factory in the valley.
Yeah.
Just down. It's around the corner from where
that's right. So all that stuff, because they liked what we were doing.
Yep.
Well, Cam and I met and we kind of got on really well.
Yep.
So we had a similar view of the world.
Yeah.
And they like supporting the local area. So they don't normally do that kind of stuff, but we're like, we'll kick you guys out. So they were our uniform suppliers, and our staff. We went down, toured the factory, and they got to pick whatever they wanted, and they were kitted out in Black Milk.
Cool.
So it looked different.
Even the guys? What were the guys wearing?
The guy, well, there wasn't a lot of range for the guys. No tights for the guys.
Right, yeah.
But we got t-shirts made for them, and they wore Chuck Taylors, the Converse shoes, and so the guys didn't have a huge range of Black Milk stuff. But yeah, even the housekeepers got these, like, they had great tie, like, where
Yeah.
would that happen? They had these great ties
Cool.
and then these, nice kind of dresses and stuff. So yeah, it was great alliance, great fun,
Yeah.
and it really, the staff absolutely loved
Yeah,
it.
I
They
can
felt
imagine.
like they were part of, and they knew the Black Milk story as well.
Yeah.
So we had a story, they had a story, mixed it all together, and the doors opened, and that hotel got to number 1 on TripAdvisor within 2 weeks.
Right. Okay.
It plateaued at about 6 or 7 over
Yeah.
the coming months, but it did that without any real decent facilities, with really small rooms, but on the back of great, great personal connections with the
Yeah.
customers and people come in. And it was like anything, it's the people and the experience that make the memories. And really, the pivot point for me was like, holy crap, this is the most fun I've had for a while at work. Why can't I do this stuff all the time? Hey, I've got to start my own business and start focusing on, building experiences that help,
So taking a step back for the role there at Wyndham,
Yeah.
so you said it was about, there was acquisitions involved, but that sort of customer insights, what does that mean in a hotel chain?
Well, I think hospitality has always been the leading edge of CX, because from ever, I started back with Hyatt hotels, and you get those little cards in your room.
Yes, yeah.
In the little boxes.
Yeah.
And so more or less, in real time on checkout, you got feedback for the day.
Yeah.
And that was lived and breathed by the department heads, would read that feedback and act upon it.
Yeah.
So the principles of customer experience have been adopted in hospitality forever, into the digital age.
Yeah.
And actually one of the biggest kind of CX vendors listed last year.
Right.
Actually, another one of them was about to list and got bought for $8 billion by SAP. So the big money in capturing experience data. But that big one, Medallia, they started in hotels. So they thought, let's transition this paper feedback.
Right.
And so they built a very successful company, which is now, globally does, incredibly large customers. A little bit of hospitality, but everything else along the way. So, in the digital age, there are a lot of different ways, and particularly when you've got TripAdvisor and those kind of things turning up.
Yeah.
So there are aggregators now that can kind of engage with feedback throughout the customer journey. So it's not very different to most businesses that actually collect experience data these days. So maybe in the hospitality and hotel world, people are a bit more in tune with working on recovering any kind of negative feedback and embracing feedback operationally on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like an alert will go off once you've got a bad result, bad score, dashboards for managers, all this kind of stuff.
So you're managing all that. I mean, that must be a fair amount of data coming in as well.
Yeah, that's right. And so really you need a tool that makes that data simple and actionable.
Okay.
I saw a great example the other day of a picture of a hotel room.
Right.
And so this would be this is representing that data for the end user to act upon it. So the end user is a housekeeping supervisor.
Okay.
So they focus on cleaning rooms and managing people to clean rooms. So they get a picture on their screen of a room, and then there's these little points to hover on, and then customers have said this about the beds or the bathroom. They're saying this is your score for bathroom. This is your score for the carpets, and it's like, and so that data can be represented in a way that they can really see, are we better or worse in that particular area? What do I need to focus on? What do I need to celebrate? Okay. So lots of data.
Yeah.
But it's really about getting the right data in the right people's hands in real time so they can act on it.
And when you were working on something like that, is that sort of data platform, is that something that you guys sort of built in-house, or are there vendors and people that you that built the software for you, or how does that work?
Yeah, so gone are the days of trying to build your own, effective experience management platform. In fact, I think one of the big banks tipped in many millions to do their own, only to turn to the big vendors and go, okay, we need your help. So for example, Telstra's customer transformation, which is being launched by the previous CEO a long time ago,
Yep.
and they had 15 people in their data team to cleanse that data to then plug into a vendor to send out. So all of those surveys you
Right.
get, there's a lot of mechanics that go on behind the scenes, even if you're just a smaller operator.
Okay.
So there's getting the right data into the platform that you use,
Yep.
and then there's the platform that just really makes things research, distribution, reminders, quarantining, survey design.
Yeah.
So there are quite a few platforms out there that start pretty basic and then massive enterprise kind of wide.
If we were talking small business, medium-sized business, they wanted to do something like that, what's a platform that you might recommend that they have a look at?
Well, full disclosure, we
Yeah.
partner with Qualtrics, which is
Fine, yeah.
the world's leading and fastest growing
Yeah.
experience management platform. And the thing we love about working with Qualtrics is that you can start small and it matures with maturity curve, and it's kind of like you can build everything yourself.
Okay.
So really in that kind of small to medium size, that's a great vendor that you can kind of, it's still an investment,
Yeah.
but it helps you get the most out of it without having to hire experts. And
Where would it start as a cost, like if a business wanted to do something?
I think
like
they've got like a research core
Right.
platform, in the teens,
Okay.
I don't know, 15K. I'm not 100%
Okay.
sure, which can really, and particularly because one of the key things in small businesses is you don't want to spend time learning,
Yeah.
waste time learning on
Yeah.
products and opportunities and things. You can kind of, instead of engaging a market research agency, you can
Yeah.
do your own market research and test things. With sample groups, you can buy a panel of potential kind of prospective customers,
Yeah.
get feedback in real time, and kind of go, well, let's not develop that product because nobody likes it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the options out there. It's a pretty competitive market, and of course you can start in the kind of Survey Monkey world, but
Yeah.
it makes life a bit
I
harder.
mean, yeah, we did a Survey Monkey last week. We got 55, 60 responses on it from something, just by sending it out to our network.
Yeah.
So, that's up and running in an hour if you know what you're doing. It's not.
Yeah,
I guess probably the hardest thing for a lot of businesses is knowing the questions to ask,
that's right.
which I'll which I'll park that for later, because I think that's an important thing for for a business of any shape and size. But just the final question I want to talk about with hotels is, so clearly what you're saying is that if anyone here stayed in a hotel, if you've had I'm sure people have stayed in a hotel wherever it is around the world, and you filled in those response forms, then they should have confidence that someone is actually reading them, and that data is going somewhere. Some of those hotel companies still seem to be very behind in terms of customer experience. They seem to still lag behind, and there's another Tom, whose name I'm just going to have to very quick look up. Tom Goodwin.
Yeah.
Tom Goodwin is on Twitter, if anybody follows him, Twitter and LinkedIn. He's quite famous for. He's actually famous for a quote. His quote was, he was the guy who came up with the saying that the biggest accommodation company in the world owns no hotels, the biggest media company in the world owns no newspapers, and that kind of he said that a long time ago, but he sort of achieved worldwide fame just from that quote alone. He travels a lot, and if you watch his Twitter feed, he is always bagging hotels for not quite getting the customer service right. Still charging for the internet and things like that. How's that, with all this great data that you seem to have, and I'm not, you obviously work for a specific chain and you can't talk for the whole industry, but with all the great data that they seem to be collecting, how do they manage still to be so far behind?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's rare to have those great experiences.
Yeah.
let's face
Yeah.
it, they're in the service industry, but it's still rare to have like a perfect experience. Now, there's a couple of points to this. Is like one is that customer journey from reservation to arrival,
Yeah.
to your room, to some food, to the internet,
Yeah.
to the elevators, to the checkout. There are so many kind of like friction points,
Yeah.
friction opportunities.
Yeah.
So it takes an incredible team focus to get all those things right.
Yeah.
So, often the more you pay,
Yeah.
the higher your expectations are,
Yeah.
but also the higher the standards and the
Yeah.
quality. And it's a competitive marketplace.
Yeah.
Economies move, and so there are pressures to deliver
Yeah.
profit for the owner of the business, and there are challenges securing the right people and investing in their training.
Yeah.
So the sector itself is kind of, really, really challenged.
Yeah.
The other thing is that they're not that agile. So I mean,
Absolutely.
So you want to put internet into, so you get free internet at McDonald's.
Yeah. Yeah.
You turn up at a hotel, you expect to get free internet.
Yeah.
You get it at McDonald's and it's high speed.
Yeah.
Now, to actually invest in the hardware to put internet into a hotel,
200 rooms or whatever.
hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, technology's improving all the time, but that was an argument that just kicking and screaming, they had to take a hit on the cost because their customers expect it. So it's hard to be agile. Now, that really opened the door for this kind of like disruption with Airbnb.
Yeah.
So interestingly, what Airbnb did was, they were picked up as like, this is the next unicorn.
Yeah.
They got all the big guys that invested in them early, and they were like, we're set, we've got funding. They were working out of New York, but their numbers were not really taking off. So one of the founders went over to New York, sat with their users, so the hosts, and just said, show me what you're doing. And they're trying to take pictures, and all of their listings looked really crap. And so really what they did, even though they thought they were kind of set, they went and really empathized with their customers to get that stuff right.
Yeah.
The other thing they did also was early days, they exchanged money, between customers.
Right.
Friction point.
Yeah.
Uber's the same. Get rid of that transaction. That's all done behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So they just filled this gap where you've got a personal experience between your host and the guest, and you don't get that in a big hotel chain.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, you're in line.
Yeah.
You meet a few people, but you don't get that experience. And so now that the world is moving to this kind of like, we want experiences. We want to spend our money on experiences, and hotels can provide it. Can be hit and miss. Airbnb, you can really tailor your experience. So therefore, they're able to fill that gap and put pressure on hotels. And some can keep up and adapt. Others struggle.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Airbnb is a great story, and the when I've read the Airbnb story, I can't remember which book I read it in, but that whole that the founders actually went and took the photos to start with. They actually did the photos because they realised that the owners were crap at taking photos. Yeah. And then obviously the point that they make is that that's not a scalable business. You can't have the owners, or you can't have the Airbnb founders going out taking photos of every location. But the interesting lesson I took out of that, which a lot of people take out of that, is that at the start of a business and a startup is to do all those things so that you understand the friction points, as you say, but also so that you get to a level and a standard that you know that you want, and take those photos for as long as you possibly can, until you can't do it anymore, and then find a way of automating it. So that what they're saying is, right at the start of a startup, there's a lot of work. You're going to do everything, and then gradually you pull things out of what you were doing and automate them, or find a better way of doing them, or a more efficient way of doing them, and that kind of thing. So that's something I've taken out and learned a lot from a lot, and I try and sort of present that to clients as well, going, you're spending a lot of time here, and as you scale, you can't keep spending time there. You've got to take yourself out of that and find another way of doing that. And I have a client who does a lot of cooking lessons and things like that. And she likes to do them. She likes to sort of engage with the customer. And I go, but there's a finite amount of cooking lessons that you can do every month.
Yes.
And it's great that we're doing it so we're getting a standard. But if we want to do 10, 20, 30 of these a month, it can't be you doing it. So we're going to have to find another alternative.
So obviously, when you're starting something and building it, you roll your sleeves up,
Yeah.
you're hands on, and you're feeling that experience and you're involved in it. So that's important. The challenge is, as a business grows, is experience usually goes the other way.
Yeah.
So scaling experience is really, one of the big challenges about growth, and that's where really like a listening measurement tool allows you to stay involved with the customer journey without physically being there. So that's always kind of like there's a tipping point when it's like, I don't need that because I'm in the business, I can see things all the time.
Yeah.
But that's not sustainable if you want to grow.
Yeah.
And if you want to scale and have multiple locations, multiple products, that kind of thing, that's where a CX strategy plays a role.
Let's turn it around to look at let's move completely from hotels into smaller businesses. Just on the other side of the road here, people don't know where we are because this is audio, and video as well. But on the other side of the road here is a mechanics.
Yeah.
And it's a mechanic, right? And we're actually going to go over to see them next week. They gave us an email and said they'd like to chat to us. If I'm a small business like that and my turnover is small, maybe it's under $1 million, and I'm servicing a car or I'm fixing a car or I'm selling a product or I'm selling something, what should I be doing from getting feedback? The question we had earlier is, what should I be asking people?
Yeah. So I think what's important for everybody in business to consider is that it's a competitive marketplace.
Yeah.
So the real kind of like driver of all this stuff is that the financials prove that the better the experience, the higher the level of advocacy, the less you got to work for new customers, the higher the level of retention.
Yeah.
So that mechanic over the road, there are plenty of other places you can go.
Yeah.
And that mechanic probably isn't a great marketer. Probably got a sign on the road.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Well, he reached out to you, so that's a step in the right direction.
Well, yeah, they're probably sign on the road or they're getting insurance jobs.
Yeah.
Based on, I often find with mechanics, it's really down to location, and sorry, digress here. I remember having a conversation with a mechanic years ago and he got lots of insurance jobs.
Yeah.
And he had a really good location on the main road where everybody saw his signage.
Yeah.
And that was all the marketing he did, and that kept him happy. And he'd come to us and he'd said, why should I bother investing in marketing? I'm making money.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid well. I've got a great business. And I said to him, what's on either side of your business? And he goes, empty warehouses, empty sheds, or whatever. I said, what happens if another mechanic moves in next to you? And you could kind of see the cogs whirring in his head. He's going, all of a sudden his potential for drive-by business is halved.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sort of saying, you do the marketing now, you build the loyalty, you build the customer base, you build the brand now, then no other mechanic's ever going to want to move in next to you. So it's in some respects it's a defensive strategy. So that was that's another reason for kind of investing in marketing and brand. Went off on a tangent there. So sorry, go on.
No. But I mean that's right. That they business might be good. However, the strategic advantage is the quality of your experiences because your customers become your marketers.
Yeah.
So marketing spreads the story. Then they experience what the story that's being told.
Yeah.
And then they're hooked. They're going to return. And when I go to a mechanic, let's just say I've got to go to my dealer anyway at the moment.
Yeah.
But if I have a bad experience, I'll pick the other dealer. I'll drive further away than that one, and I'll tell people about it. When you have a bad experience, they don't hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of automotive now have got full-blown CX programs where they're peppering you with feedback, right after service. So the smaller kind of guys, smaller kind of business, it's like your customers are your potential marketers.
Yeah.
They're going to spread all of that kind of that positive word. People believe
Yeah.
other people,
Yeah.
even like people.
Above and beyond anything else. That's
right.
the number one area for.
So I think there's kind of 3 key steps to this. The first step is like a realization that this is actually a priority.
Yeah.
That the experience of your customers actually, you won't necessarily see it in a straight line, but it drives future revenue.
Yeah.
The second thing is you want to therefore focus on getting that experience right.
Yeah.
So that's really standing back and thinking about what are the steps my customer walks through when they interact with me, from the first phone call
Yeah.
to the finish point. And what you want to do is you want to start strong and you want to finish strong.
Yeah.
Then what are those potential friction points along the way? How can I reduce those friction points?
Yeah.
And how can I make that memorable? What can I do that my competitors wouldn't do?
Yeah.
So thinking about designing that experience, and that's the fun, creative part of the job,
Yeah.
Then once you've done that, it's like, okay, well, it would be good to know how people are feeling. So then it can be that feedback, particularly for a small business, that can just be having a conversation, having an email after their interaction.
So what would you and I think email's the perfect opportunity. But
Yeah.
what would you ask them? I mean, I see often. What do I see? We shared on Instagram. So anyone who gets to go see the Paper Planes Instagram, someone would take a photo at Heathrow Airport of a bin, a rubbish bin.
Yeah.
And on it had one of those happy face, smiley face. What did you think of this bin? And I was, it was hilarious because I found it on Twitter and I put it on Instagram. But people would go, why are we asking people about their engagement experience with a bin? But it was someone, and it was I can't remember, but it was a big CX firm, one of the global ones.
Yeah.
Their little name was on the bottom of the thing. And I'm thinking, I can only imagine how much money they've been paid to collect and collate and present data about the use of a fucking bin. It was just like, anyway. But is that enough? Is that enough for a small business just to sort of say happy face, sad face?
Well, what are you going to do with that?
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
And that's
yeah.
the problem with those bloody signs you've got.
Yeah.
Customs.
Yeah.
How.
Yeah.
It's
So you have
a
good,
measure.
good
Kids press the red one or the green one.
Yeah.
It's
Your little
like-
3-year-olds going.
It's crap data. It doesn't provide any kind of insights.
Okay,
Now,
all right.
the thing is like, it's really, there's 2 elements to it. It is important to have a metric because, depending on how many you're going to get back, then you can actually set some benchmarks and see if things are getting better or worse. But then it's understanding what's driving that. And that's why there is some nuance to a survey design. Shouldn't be long.
Yeah.
It should have a leading measurement, a couple of driver questions, and then a verbatim piece. And that's
Right.
really where people get the value is like, okay, they gave us a score of 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Now I can understand why. Because, apparently there are 27 human emotions.
Right. Okay.
And those emotions are expressed in different ways by different people.
Yeah.
But it's the writing and how they write. I love you guys because of this, or I'm really, it could have been better because of this piece.
Yeah.
And when people are unhappy, they'll happily tell other people, give them the chance, they'll tell you as well. Yeah. So it is a bit of a blend. People can research and probably know a lot about the Net Promoter Score. It is.
Yes, Matt, my business partner, talks about Net Promoter Score all the time.
Yeah.
So
It is the leading global metric.
Yeah.
There's also overall satisfaction. There's customer effort.
Yeah.
There are different key metrics.
Okay.
And it doesn't. The research says it doesn't matter what metric you pick. Really, that's not the biggest decision. It's what you invest and wrap around that.
Right.
So it's some of these platforms build surveys for you.
Yeah.
But you get feedback through review sites.
Yeah. Yeah.
Through the most accurate feedback is being hands-on and actually spending time with your customers. Cam was talking about going, starting with this new role and just going and meeting customers and talking to them about it. I mean, that's not hard.
Yeah.
And so you can learn through all of these different ways as you scale up, getting something that can hit your computer wherever you are on a daily basis, so you've got your finger on the pulse. That is important.
But I think even those people who don't, it's an email, a simple email that you can cut and paste and send to the next person is, or has a link to a survey.
And that's personal. And that's a personal.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're capable of doing, is like
Yeah.
It's not hard to send email, and that's people don't expect. Hey, how was your experience?
Yeah.
I'm so and so. Let me know, and you'll get an email back.
Do you think people are honest in that? So if I email someone and say, "What do you think of my business?" It's like, you know, when the chef, not the chef, but the waitress comes around after they've served you your steak.
Yeah.
I mean, perfect example. I sat at the Regatta Hotel the other week and had a steak with my wife, and asked for it medium rare. When it rocks up, it's almost well done. You know, and then the waitress. Yeah, no, you're right. And then the waitress stands next to you and goes, "Is everything all right?" And you just go, "Yeah, fine." And you say it's fine because you can't be fucked waiting for another steak to be cooked, and you don't want to make a scene. So, does that sort of flow on to this customer experience survey? So, you know, I've gone and had my car done at the mechanic, and you know they haven't done a very good job, and something's still wrong with it, and then they send me an email. Do I just go, you know, is it better that, you know, are people honest in those surveys, or would it be better coming from a third party, you know, so that they don't know it was you giving that feedback? Or
I think when we represent third parties in our kind of experience management stuff, we brand it as them.
Right.
And it goes straight to them.
Yeah.
So we don't take care of their experience.
Yeah.
So I think it's 100% reasonable and expected that it's the business asking you for feedback. Now, in the moment when you're dealing with another person, all those emotions are going through, and people, myself included, from time to time, will be like, "I don't want to cause a fuss. I just won't come back here."
You of all people should be, you know.
Well, I'm a human being, you know, with all of these emotions, and so that's quite natural in the moment. Now, given the opportunity to share that on my phone, you know, wherever I am, people will be more honest.
Yeah.
And so, but often they don't expect anything to happen after that.
Yeah.
So are people honest? Well, people have a lot of survey fatigue, so not everybody will fill in a survey. So it's all depends on how you present it, when you present. There's a little bit of nuance around doing that. But you do get a good representation. Particularly people that are unhappy, they'll happily share with you.
Yeah.
Then the key is kind of like these action loops. So it's really important to respond really quickly.
Right, okay.
Almost an immediate response.
Yeah.
You can trigger things to go, you know, if it's a low score, bang, you're getting like a sympathetic, you know, response. But then you need to take recovery steps, you know, proactive recovery, resolve the service failure. So do something about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's lots of research around, you recover one unhappy customer and you recover them really well, and they'll become more of an advocate than somebody that just had like a good experience. So it's a golden opportunity. If you stuff that up or don't do anything, then obviously they're going and sharing it with 10 to 12 other people. So that's the second step. The next one's about continuous improvement. So using feedback. Okay, you know, let's huddle each day. Let's look at our feedback. What can we do better today? What can we do today to be better than yesterday?
Yeah.
And the last piece is like is about strategic change. So okay, what are the things we can really do to improve or reduce the amount of times this particular thing happens? So the key, I think a lot of marketers that might listen to this have been involved with customer experience because you guys are in the world of measuring things.
Yeah. Well, it's a natural. They fit well together in the same way as sales and marketing.
Often CX efforts fall into marketing first.
Yeah.
But then marketing needs to go and sell to other parts of the business because they can see all these things that are broken, but they're not responsible for the operation, necessarily the product, that kind of thing. So the key with any kind of effort is that it's matched with action.
Yeah.
And the minute, okay, this is a bit of a stupid kind of analogy, but the movie with Mel Gibson, What Women Want.
Right, yes, I remember that movie.
Okay, it was on TV the other night, that's why I thought about it.
Yeah.
So he can read women's minds, and he was advertising executive, and a woman comes in to take over his role or whatever. He's you know, second fiddle. He can read everybody's minds, and it turns out that everybody thinks he's an absolute dick. And so when you turn on your feedback, you can hear things that you don't necessarily want to hear, but they were happening all along. So if you're going to ask, if you're going to find things out, then you must be prepared to act.
Right.
And that's usually a challenge,
Yes.
particularly if it's a marketing effort. Hey, we found this feedback. Guess what? You stink and you stink and you stink. And then people kind of like, well, I don't like this kind of stuff. I just want to focus on the things I could see that look great. So it is that whole kind of continuous improvement stuff.
My last question for you today, because it stems off something you said just in those points there. There's an argument that I read once that says businesses should almost think about making deliberate mistakes in their dealings, in their customer experience with customers.
Right.
Because making a deliberate mistake allows them to fix it and allows to deliver a even better experience than had they had a normal great experience all the way through.
Yeah.
Because it's like that. It's like that. You know, something's wrong with your hotel room.
Yeah.
And you ring up reception, and someone's there in 2 minutes, and they fix it, and you go, "Oh, that service was great. How quick was that?"
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then you go out with this kind of little glow about how good that was, right? Whereas if you just turned up to the hotel room and everything was right, and then you had stayed in the hotel room and you left, you wouldn't have that glow.
Yeah.
So I'd read somewhere, and I wish I could remember where I read it, that there's an argument to make deliberate. I think it was something about people building houses. I think it was builders who were building houses, that there was an argument that they should leave a few things deliberately not done properly, so that the homeowner goes, "Hey, there's 3 things that aren't working properly," and of course the builder's there, bang, next day fixes them without any problems and says, "Yeah, no extra charge. Sorry about that." You know, and then of course then the homeowner goes, you know, they were there, they attended to our every need. Do you think, is that a viable tactic, or is that, you know, or is there too much risk in that kind of thing?
Yeah, look, it's interesting and it could work.
You might not want to ask that.
Yeah, I kind of think get everything right first, and put that effort into. Because here's the key, Simon. It's experiences are made by human connections.
Yeah.
Human connections create memories, and that's what it's all about. Now, you can create an impressive human connection through a service recovery.
Yeah.
To design that into your journey, I see the merit in it, and I see the logic, and absolutely that could work. However, to design strong human connections into everything working.
Yeah.
I think that there is probably more room to work in the whole. All right, say you're the builder, you do your defect inspection, put the red stickers on a couple places. Now, when you hand over, this is the thing my friends are builders talking about. You know, they hand over the building, they don't even turn up. Some of them don't turn up.
Yeah.
And that's a moment of truth. Now, imagine if that guy is there and he says, "You'll notice 3 green stickers."
Yeah.
Now, what they are, they're things which I don't think are up to standard.
Right.
So we'll arrange for somebody to come back within the next 2 weeks, and here's a card. I'll be in touch with you. So you're not waiting for them to find it because they won't ring.
Yeah.
Because human nature's like, oh, they'll whinge about it, but that's impressive.
Yeah.
You're drawing attention to something that's not quite right, but you're showing empathy and care. So the fun part of this is that you spend the time really designing how can your experience be exceptional, and then just keep tinkering with it and playing with it. Yeah. And, that's why it's this whole journey that never ends. Yeah. And you know what? The most satisfying thing about business is when you have delighted a customer. Yeah. And what that does is that drives purpose for the people that have worked and been involved in that. Yeah. And it's purposeful work. Yeah. And, ultimately, that's what I think we're all trying to achieve. Yeah. So experience really does leverage and focus on what's most important and most rewarding.
That's a good point to wrap it all up. I've got 2 final questions for you. You've been in the hotel game for a long time prior to your current role.
Yeah.
What's your favourite hotel around the world? If you could stay anywhere this weekend with no cost, where would you go?
Oh my goodness.
And feel free to choose one of your own brand ones if that's
Yeah, well, do you know what? Probably last year I took my wife to the States and we stayed in an Airbnb.
Right.
And it was a 1-bedroom on the back of a creek, 6 foot of snow all around it, and our hosts were incredible, and they came and took us to dinner.
Yeah.
And included us. It's actually the ski resort Robert Redford owns in Utah.
Right.
It's this incredible, and so we got really connected to this place.
Yeah.
And I know you can do that in hotels, but a recent experience that was incredible. However, just before Christmas, we went to Bali and stayed at Hotel Commune.
Okay.
Now I'm a surfer.
Yeah.
And Wayne, the manager there, has created, I think, the optimum environment for wives that don't surf, families. It's everything. You don't need to leave.
Yeah.
People are amazing. You've got this beautiful pool right out of your room. So, I haven't answered your question properly.
No. That's 2 good hotel recommendations. I think that was perfect.
So
that's perfect.
Now you said, that's the last 2 questions?
Yeah. No. One other one. If people want to get hold of you, what's the best place to find you, or chat to you, or talk to you about?
Yeah, great. Love any conversation about experiences. It's where it always starts. So, Tom Scantlebury on LinkedIn or skybluecxs.com.au.
Cool. Mate, it's been fantastic. Thank you very much for your time today. Been a pleasure.
Great.